Morning, everybody. I'm going to call the meeting for February 23rd of the Municipal Airport Authority to order.
Everybody hear us?
Everybody here? Everybody hear us online? John, all right, thank you, John Cosgriff. If I could ask everybody to mute yourself, just so we don't have any dogs barking or anything like that in the background. All right, item number one. I'd like to approve the meeting minutes from the meeting from February 9th.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. That is, motion carries. All right, approve the airport vouchers totaling $12,533.63.
Moved.
Second.
And moved and seconded. Roll call vote.
Hogan?
Aye.
Cosgriff?
Aye.
Hagan?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
Lynn.
Aye. Okay, and item 3, approve the individual vouchers, A through E, for larger expenses. So,
Motion.
Second.
motion and second. Roll call vote, please.
Hogan?
Aye.
Cosgriff?
Aye.
Hagan?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
Lynn.
Aye. Motion carries as well. Item 4, update the designated signatures for the First International Bank and Trust accounts.
Okay, since we rotated chair, vice chair, and so forth, I would recommend that you approve designated signers for First International Bank and Trust accounts to myself, Joan, the chair, and the vice chair. So Chair Lind and Vice Chair Engen. And Mr. Blazik is here to get your signatures today.
Okay. I think that is good. I believe Virginia was still on there, right? So I would like to get
For
all the-
one, but I was still there, yeah.
So I would like to get those updated so that anybody who's not on the authority anymore is not responsible for this.
We'll do that at the annual meeting in the future.
Okay, can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
And,
Second.
and a second. Thank you. Roll call vote.
Hogan?
Aye.
Cosgriff?
Aye.
Hagan? Abstain. Abstain. Lynn?
Aye.
Lynn.
Aye. Abstain? Sure. Motion carries.
Yeah, that's three, 2 abstains.
There you go. Sounds good. Caught me on that one. Right. Item 5, presentation by SP Plus regarding the dynamic pricing program and an update to access and revenue control systems.
Online, we have Jason Finch. He's out in San Francisco. I think Brad McAllister's on there. Both of them were with SP Plus, and John Wild from Manchester Airport Group. Brad, I think you're going to present, correct? You can take off.
I am. Can everyone hear me okay?
We can. And I think Darren will allow you to share your screen here somehow.
Okay, very good.
Looks like you're still on mute.
I know, isn't it? I think he's coming through the phone.
I'm actually on my phone too because I don't know why my computer audio wasn't working when I got on.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Oh, it says it's disabled for me.
Yeah, you guys at the airport have your logo up instead of live camera.
Yeah. But what are you? You're calling in on your phone, but you got your computer here somewhere too, or?
He's upper left.
Correct. Yep. I'm just using my phone for my audio. But I should be able to present. It tells me host disabled participant screen sharing. Okay. Here we are. Can everyone see the presentation?
Yes.
All
At
right,
least we
great.
can hear.
All right, thanks everyone for joining us today and allowing us an opportunity to speak. With me is Senior Vice President for SP Plus, Jason Finch, as well as VP of Business Development for Manchester Airport Group, John Wildman. And my name is Brad McAllister. I'm the Regional Manager for SP Plus, and I oversee Fargo Airport. We have a number of slides, so I'm going to try to get through them quickly to ensure we have enough time for questions. But our presentation today is something I'm excited about and something we included in our proposal at the end of our last term when our contract was renewed. And that's about dynamic pricing and parking reservations online. We did add a slide here as well, just talking about the current state of the park system, the parks equipment at the airport now, and just look into the future and a recommendation to look at replacing that current system. And we'll talk about that further. Quickly, I think dynamic pricing now is a really appropriate time to discuss this, given the state of revenues, the effect of COVID on our business. Dynamic pricing gives us the ability to offer rates to customers online at a discounted rate, but also allows us the opportunity to implement a solution that is contactless and allows for a touchless journey for the passenger, which I know everybody's very worried about today in a COVID environment. Just taking a look at a snapshot at revenue over the past year, our low was in the height of COVID at the beginning in April, and we were collecting only 5% of the revenue we were collecting the April before in 2019. Now we've climbed our way back, very similar and very much in line with other non-primary hub airports like Fargo. In December and January, back up to about 45% of the revenue we were collecting year over year. So obviously, we have a challenge with revenue and the effects of COVID, and we are looking for ways to generate new revenue that we didn't experience before. I want to remind the board and Sean that we have performed transportation surveys on site 6 times over the last 3 years. And, a number of, I think, salient results came from these surveys. We were actually able to capture more than half of the enplanements for those 2-day events when we were on site and surveying passengers. And, some of those highlights really relate to the fact that, we, on average, about 38% of the folks flying out of Fargo are being dropped off at the terminal and not parking a vehicle. Another a really good point is that TNC usage, Uber usage, to get to the airport has grown from 2% to 8% over those 3 years. And we've also noticed that folks are dropped off more frequently in the summer than they are winter. And we think this is due to the additional leisure flights that are offered in the summer by Fargo. And, these travelers on these leisure flights are typically price sensitive. So, the whole point of dynamic pricing is really giving us flexibility to offer prices discounted from the established posted rates. And as everybody knows, typically, me included, when we go to the airport, we may park for 2 or 3 days for $15 or $20. But once our stay goes beyond 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days, the cost to park at the airport becomes really cost prohibitive, and it's actually cheaper to take an Uber or try to get dropped off. So that's what we're trying to battle, and that's the revenue we're trying to protect here. Quickly, dynamic pricing and how it works. Really, gives us that ability to do more than just the static pricing. We have partnered with a company called Manchester Airport Group, who has a lot of experience in Europe doing this with airports they manage in the UK. European passengers are very used to booking their parking when they book their flight before they get to the airport. And something that's very much coming to the US. Manchester Airport Group now has a number of U.S. customers, Ontario, Burbank, Houston included, and now we're seeing smaller airports like Fargo come online as well and capture those customers who are willing to look online for a deal for parking. And we really believe these are customers that were not parking at the airport before. So there's a reservation widget that's placed on the home page, and as a customer, you would go to the home page and put in your parking dates, and the system will show you dynamic prices for each lot. And the discounts are really based on how far out in advance you book your stay and how long your stay is. Additional products can also be sold there as well. The customer receives a QR code on either their phone, or they can print out a piece of paper, and they show these credentials to a barcode reader at the entry and exit, and they prepay for their parking stay online. Just a real quick on the equipment, Manchester Airport Group, our partner, would install 6 barcode readers. MAG would have an opportunity to capture or at least pay for these equipment as a part of that revenue that would be collected from the online reservations over the course of the contract. If the service is terminated or agreement ends before the cost of those readers is reimbursed, then the Municipal Airport Authority will have the option to either pay for the devices, the remaining cost of the devices, or just have Manchester Airport Group remove those devices from the location. Real quick, this is sort of what the widget would look like after you put in your dates, and you'd have the option to select your parking. I think also there's an opportunity here for customers to upgauge their experience as well. They may see the price of long-term, and as opposed to parking in economy, may upgauge that, given the pricing dynamic that we offer here. Real quick, we've been doing dynamic pricing at Burbank for well over a year now. We started in July 2019 in Valet, and we've expanded that to the self-parking lots as well. We saw before we implemented dynamic pricing that we were actually seeing increasing employments, but parking revenues were declining, and that was really driven by a large portion of the public, the market there, using TNCs, adopting the use of TNCs to get to the airport. So to battle that and to insulate ourselves from that revenue degradation, we implemented dynamic pricing, and very quickly we saw that our average stay duration in Valet went from 2 days to more than 7 days. And so, our average transaction value for each parker was increasing. And this is the metric we really want to watch. This is what tells us that we're optimizing the parking revenue at the airport. We also did a quick LPR study, which is a license plate identification and recognition system we have at the airport. And because when you book your reservation online, you're putting in your license plate, we were able to match those license plates from the bookings with our historical inventory of license plates through the LPR system. And we found that some 81% of the bookings are all new customers. These are all vehicles that we did not see on the property before. So this is all a new revenue we weren't capturing, and we believe it was really going to the TNCs, to Ubers and Lyfts. So we've captured some of that traffic back. Just a couple of visualizations here on some of the success we've seen there in Burbank. And you all have a copy of the presentation, so you can take a look at this. The compensation table, in order for Manchester Airport Group to get paid for their services, which is really, all of the efforts around driving traffic to that online widget, driving customers to the booking option online. Every transaction made online, Manchester Airport Group will receive a $1.99 booking fee for. But in order for them to get their commission, which is 27% of the total transaction value for that particular customer, the customer has to actually exceed the established stay duration. And we determine these stay durations for each lot at Fargo Airport, and it's really based on the number of transactions we saw. We used 2019 data because that's when activity was really well. So we certainly wanted to, make sure our customers are meeting that level. But just for example, for our long-term lot in 2019, our average stay for our customers in that lot was 4.29 days. So in order for Manchester Airport Group to receive a commission on that transaction value, for that customer, the customer needs to stay beyond that average stay duration. And this is how we protect ourselves and ensure that we're not cannibalizing revenue and discounting customers that we were already parking at the airport. There is credit card fees involved as well. And there's a little bit of data here on that. I did do a couple examples here just so you could see sort of how that revenue share would happen. So with a qualifying commission, if a customer stayed at Fargo Airport for 7 days and they were given a rate of $5 a day, so $35 online, the customer would actually pay $36.99. That's $35 plus the $1.99 fee. Fargo Municipal Airport Authority would actually receive $24.44 of that $35 parking fee stay, and Manchester Airport Group would receive $9.45, which is that 27% commission, plus the booking fee, as well as the credit card fees, which would be there anyway for the customer. So that's how that breaks out. All in all, this is an opportunity, I think, to capture revenue we're not currently capturing. So that's certainly going to help, our state of revenue in terms of, the challenge we have with the effects that COVID has put on our facility. Improved customer experience, obviously, the opportunity for a customer to enter and exit the lot without having to touch a button, completely contactless experience is certainly, I think, is what's going to get customers back to airports and back to traveling. So I think, this is going to be something that we're going to see really moving forward quickly here across the U.S. airport market as COVID persists. So real quick, I wanted to talk a little bit about the parking access and revenue control system. Most of you probably know the system is well over 15 years old. We have several devices that are actually over 20 years old. So, we're well past our useful life. We've gotten a lot of use out of this system, but it's becoming very costly to maintain, and parts are getting harder and harder to find as they're not being manufactured or supported by the vendor anymore. So I think now is the time as well to talk about replacing that system with a new sort of best-in-class system that has all those features that we expect from parking systems today. We have a tentative recommendation. At the airport's request, we went out and did get 3 quotes from 3 vendors. We're really looking hard at 2 of the vendors. We like TIBA. We use them at a number of locations. We've invested heavily in their equipment, but we're sort of playing one vendor against another in pricing, and absolutely plan on getting back to Sean here very shortly on a recommendation for the system. The very nice thing about Fargo, and I'm working with Sean's representative at FAA to confirm that these systems qualify for the Buy American Act. So there is potential for the system to be funded by CARES funding. So I hope I didn't miss too much there. I wanted to get through that and allow some time for questions. Jason and John, if you wanted to add anything, or if I missed anything, feel free to speak up, and happy to answer any questions you all have.
Yeah, hi, good morning, everybody. It's Jason Finch. And Brad, nice job. I just want to make a few points and clarifications. Brad had indicated the rate that the customer will receive through dynamic pricing is much like an airline. It's how far out you get it, but it's really also supply and demand driven. And so during what dynamic pricing allows us to do is during periods of low activity or low volume, we are able to offer discounted parking in order to secure traffic. But clearly, when the recovery happens and we're back to the times that we were experiencing in 2019, there are several times throughout the year where we would not offer discounted parking because the lots were very, very full on it. And so definitely supply and demand is a major part of the pricing. And that's where the Manchester folks had all of their algorithms, folks behind the scenes that have full integration with the equipment, that have the ability to forecast future demand based on historical demand or what they're seeing in the activity, that would come into play. And also the airport and the authority would all retain full control also. We would work together with MAG and ourselves. We would make some certain pricing parameter recommendations. For example, the floor, the maximum discount that Manchester would be able to provide, example. But the authority always retains its control over pricing. And so, we don't want you to think that you're ceding any type of control over the rates whatsoever. We're making some recommendations to the board or to Sean and Darren, and then of course work within those parameters as well.
Okay, I have some questions. My question is, you said you were playing the contracts again, the suppliers against each other to kind of work on pricing. Is there any other competitors to this? You said there's 27%, they get 27% of the revenue per the sale. Are there any other competitors, or is there any negotiation? Because to ask for that, is there any way that you can negotiate less, or?
Well, there are certainly other folks that do this. We foresaw dynamic pricing coming years ago, and so we created this strategic relationship with Manchester Airport and have been talking to airports about this for years. Of course, I think it's taken on a new role for those benefits that Brad had extolled. But even pre-pandemic, we were very far in negotiations. We can get other quotes for you. I think the reality is, through our relationship, we have a little bit of more control. I'll give you an example of an airport that went with a different vendor, which they had the choice to do so. They always come back and ask us to manage it through a subcontract relationship. And this was a vendor that didn't even want to indemnify the airport or us from any breach in credit cards. And so, and then that airport came and asked for something to be added on that was not part of the RFP that costed development, and we were able to use a little bit of leverage and pressure on Manchester. So, we're happy to have that conversation with Manchester. I always sort of look at it in this way. They're responsible for the marketing. They're putting up all the capital, all the upfront costs. We put those checks and balances in a contract to make sure that we're not cannibalizing our revenue. So if you and I are respectfully walking down the street and we found 4 quarters and I had to give one of them away to somebody, I would take those 3 quarters and be happy every day of the week. So, this is a very typical range that we've negotiated with our other airports for dynamic pricing. And as we say, we've got those protections in place to make sure that these are new customers and new revenues, and that it's not cannibalization. But your point's well taken. We'll be happy to take that back, and I'll have that conversation. I can see the smile on John's face already, so on the camera. So forewarned.
Hey,
I have another question.
Eric, that's good.
Just to ease your,
But
just to limit any confusion real quick, when I mentioned that I was pitting the vendors against each other to get better pricing, I was really referring to the parks vendors, so the actual equipment, parking equipment vendors for the site campus wide, and not dynamic pricing per se.
Yeah, I was just yeah, go ahead.
Eric, I think we got a good point. What's our purchasing policy here? Do we have to go out, request for proposals, request for services? I hate to always be the new guy asking, but sometimes when you've got a vendor tucked in under another vendor, it gets a little confusing.
Yeah, and I would say this was part of our proposal. We identified Manchester Group as our proposed solution provider for a dynamic pricing when we submitted our proposal. And I don't know who the other vendors that bid on this 3 years ago, who their solution was. But I would say this was addressed in our proposal, and I think vetted by the board when our proposal was selected.
That's correct. This is the Manchester Airport Group is their partner. The others didn't propose any dynamic pricing. They never even knew what it was.
Okay.
So this is what I would recommend that you would move forward through. The dynamic pricing, just as presented, is what I would recommend that you move forward with.
Okay. I have another question.
Did we explore from any other vendors though?
I'm sorry?
Did we ask for dynamic pricing or alternative models for any other vendors?
each had the opportunity to present that if they did. When was it, a year or more ago? And SP Plus was the only one that provided that opportunity to us.
And John, we
Was it called out?
we
Yeah, was it called out in the proposal, or is this just an add-on that's provided? I'm just trying to get to, are we on level field here?
You know, John, one of the things that I remember reviewing those proposals, one of the things that really stood out as an example, in addition to this, was that they provided a shuttle service at no charge. So that wasn't requested in the RFP, but that was an addition like this was, that was not required, but as to make them more competitive.
Yeah, I just want to understand that we aren't violating our purchasing policy here.
I can speak. There was a section in the RFP that allowed you to address your technological advancements and customer initiatives and things that you would propose or offer that would enhance the customer experience or enhance the revenue stream. I don't recall. I don't know if it was specifically called out. Would you propose a shuttle service? Would you propose dynamic pricing, for example? But I definitely remember that section and addressing several trends and initiatives and recommendations that we have.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Jason. I don't think it's on your side. I think it's on our side to just know what our policy is and whether we're following it. And I don't have that policy, so I just caution that, we are, entering into additional services here, that we stay in compliance with our policy.
An additional service that's in our favor. I don't know what else to tell you.
Okay, I have another question for you. So the marketing campaign that is going to go with this, you said Manchester Group is going to pay for that. So how I envision this, we have a number of large employers in the city of Fargo. I think Bobcat's one of them, and there's several others that require their employees to take an Uber or something. They're not allowed to park in the parking lot here. Who is going to contact those people, those employers, and try and tell them about this new service and try and manage the marketing plan for everybody in the city of Fargo? Who's going to do that? Is that on us, or is that on Manchester Group? Or is it on SP Plus?
John, why don't you speak to what is covered as the sort of the Google search act? Because I think it's a little bit differently what's being addressed there. That's more like a corporate Parker program, and then we swing back around and talk about how we will help get the
Yeah, sure. So we provide the marketing that targets kind of all digital channels. So, anything on social media, we put ads out there on Google, on kind of different affiliate websites. So anything as the world moves to more of a digital kind of space. I mean, we're all familiar with Uber and how they transact. That's kind of what we cover. What we also do is the system technology provides different solutions. So in the example of wanting to provide a specific booking link to a specific corporation, whether it be the city and city employees, we can create that link. And really, it's Manchester Airport Group or SP Plus or the airports can actually send that link out to the city in that instance in any way that you see fit. So we're happy to pick up all kind of digital email kind of responsibilities under this contract. I guess the only thing is if it was more of a leaflet or a kind of on-site advertising, that's probably more sits in the realm of of an SP Plus under their existing advertising approach, which we're obviously happy for them to carry on doing. They obviously have the experience in that with Fargo. But I think all angles are covered through both the technology and the marketing resource that we bring to this contract.
Just on a personal note, I have I don't ever see any of our digital media because I don't see a lot of it. So I think if we rely solely on social media, it's going to be a weak plan.
Well,
I would like to see
notifying
something.
the corporate thing is very, very easy.
Okay.
I'm well connected with them through the EDC and others. That's a non-issue.
Okay.
They will be notified. That's
Very good.
That's nothing to worry about.
And how long is our contract? You said if the readers are not paid for by the end of the contract, then we have to settle up or whatever. But my question is, how long is the contract?
Brad, remind me, I think it expires December 31st of 2022, is that correct?
I don't have it in front of me. I know.
Yeah, I can verify quickly. While Brad's looking that up.
Yeah, I'm just checking. Yeah, so that's what it was, Jason.
But the current contract has an out clause, a 30-day out for convenience clause, as would any subcontract that we have with MAG as well. So we really don't envision that, but we just want to make sure that, you know, there's a comfort level that for any reason or no reason you can get out of the contract. We can suspend the service with dynamic pricing if you're not happy with the service, or you don't believe it's delivering those results. And you know, because with our contract, so we just make sure that the airport's protection in terms of installation clauses carries down into Manchester subcontract as well.
What's the
It's
December
31
contract?
I'm sorry.
What's the anticipated total dollar amount of this subcontract?
Well, we can't speak to the revenue side, right? I mean, that's the part that we don't know. We don't know what we're not getting to today. The cost to implement this thing is the $30,000 that Manchester is going to front for the 6 barcode readers, so that we have one at each of the parking lots. That, as Brad explained, would be recovered through the first $7,500 per year of new revenue on it. So, you know, we're just showing you our experience has been. We've seen it at another airport that has just implemented reservations. San Francisco, I think Sean alluded to, where I'm based, started a reservation program only, not dynamic pricing at this juncture, but they offered through digital marketing and online the ability to park at the terminal garages for the same rate as you would park for the long-term garage, which is currently closed because we don't need it. And we saw the same thing that we saw in Burbank. Over 70% of those license plates had not been in that airport in the first year, which means there is a very, very hungry market out there that is out there online searching for discounted, searching for the best value product. And so that's why we're comfortable recommending this system to you, because we now have seen it. Manchester, of course, has seen it at their place, at their 4 owned airports that they own and manage in Europe, that we are going to drive new traffic. The reason why we're bringing it to Fargo also is, as Brad said, because unlike our other airports where we've not done those transportation studies year over year, we concretely know that there is a huge opportunity for new revenue at this airport, because 4 out of every 10 customers aren't driving a car.
Yeah, and Jason, what would you estimate the revenue paid for the services to Manchester will be?
John, I think we can comfortably say, right? I mean, you typically see in the range of 30 to 40% increases in revenues. Or you tell me the percent. Let me not put words in your mouth.
Yeah, I mean, in probably year one, it would be a little bit lower than that, probably about 10 to 20%. I think given the COVID situation, from the forecast that we've done, you're probably looking at about 30 to 40,000 kind of dollars. You know, that's the kind of range that MAG would receive. You know, roughly. Obviously, it's all dependent on how well the product takes off. And with the reimbursement structure, obviously, it's all based on the revenue that's been driven. Whereas what we try to do is avoid coming in with a kind of a fixed fee, you know, to make this work. You know, you see vendors in the market charging several $100,000 for this type of service. So we've tried to kind of model that on a commission basis out of the incremental revenue due to the size of Fargo as an airport.
So our backside risk is the 30,000 in the card readers. If the revenue is not sufficient to pay that back, then we're stuck with that as kind of the decision for us.
That's right, but we'll say this, you know, that also reduces the investment on the new equipment side that we'll be back in with, I think, a firm recommendation, because you're going to need barcode readers to do contactless, touchless payment, right? I mean, that is the one thing that I think is one of the things that is going to be sustained even when we come out of having 2 shots in the arm, is that folks are going to still look for that contactless, touchless experience. And so barcode readers are going to be absolutely necessary anyways. I think that's there's really very little risk associated with, in fact, no risk associated with this deal. And you're right, your cap is this $30,000 investment. That on the other end is going to ultimately reduce that 390,000 that Brad related to, because we would be able to just transfer these barcode readers to the new equipment.
Okay. Any other, Tammy? Go ahead.
I've got two things. I spent a lot of years in another state, and I can tell you that, number one, when we were looking at parking a car at Phoenix Sky Harbor, I would go online and I would choose a vendor off-site, pay them less, and they shuttled me to it. You know, and that was over the last 20, 30 years. So this, I think, is really exciting that we could possibly do that and capture some. My question, though, is, and it was one little thing, but I saw that, Meg, are you collecting the emails, number one? And number two, can they opt out of future ad marketing? And number three, how do we, as a vendor, do we have access to those?
Great question.
Yes, so all the marketing is done in the, following the strictest of the data rules. So yes, there's the opt-in, as you referred to, then it follows the laws specifically to tick in and opt in to marketing. And yes, absolutely, you have access to the data. So if you, on a non-parking related marketing campaign, wanted to target those customers who have opted in with a wider Fargo offering at the airport, you absolutely can do that also. Yes.
And Tammy, can I add anything to that too as well? I was just on a call with Manchester. We're implementing the reservation system at a smaller airport, Charles M. Schultz, Sonoma County, on it. And going through that journey, there is literally a box where the customer has to opt in for future marketing. But out of that discussion, we were walking them through, there are some add-on services. So as you guys know, in the short-term parking lot, you have the ability to pay $4 more a day and reserve a reserve parking space. That will now be part of the customer journey. So we've seen when you have these add-on services be part of the reservation process, because they can make that decision right then, those sales will go up. But internally, and I think it can play into at Fargo also, we're going to be working with the restaurant at site at Fargo, and they're going to put a promotion on the widget, the reservation experience as well. So they're still thinking about maybe it's a grab and go, food, or maybe, hey, spend $25 and get $40 worth of food or something like that. So we're looking at exploring how this can also help out our other partners at the airport and, increase sales there as well. And if these restaurants know in advance, hey, I need 10 grab and go things today, and Jason Finch is going to be showing up at 1 o'clock, we think this has the potential to really, really enhance the customer experience, but also some other non-aeronautical revenue sources as well.
I think that cross marketing is that's just so interesting and important to help benefit everybody, all the vendors here. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? Any other questions for the SP Plus gentlemen? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the dynamic pricing model?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Engen.
Aye.
Cosgrove.
As long as we're in compliance with purchasing policy, aye.
Hogan.
Aye.
Lynn.
Aye.
Lynn.
Aye.
Gotta change it up a little bit.
I know.
Okay,
It's like-
the motion passes. Thank you, gentlemen, appreciate that. I do have, well, maybe we'll talk about
The parking stuff, Jason and Brad, you'll bring that back, maybe hopefully before our next meeting, if you have some prices with that. The idea is that we would reimburse, I guess, you through the current management contract. If the airport authority goes out for bid, I don't know, I mean, that's certainly an option to do that for the airport authority to take it. If you have plans and specs, we can put it out to bid as well. But what's going to happen is you're going to get someone that probably proposes equipment that you have no experience with nor have any confidence in working in this part of the country. That's the problem. There's stuff that works down in Florida that doesn't work up here.
That's right, Charlie. So yeah, that's our plan. We will be back. We just wanted to tee it up for discussion purposes and let folks know, some of the challenges that we're having and that we certainly want to address before we have a real recovery on it. But we'll be back with a firm recommendation and a report before the next meeting.
So how have you typically handled replacing equipment in this magnitude at other airports? Do you purchase it and then they reimburse, or how have you
Most
done it?
airports tend to prefer a procurement process, a little less cumbersome, a little bit more control over many of the points and specific points that you just addressed, Sean, to make sure it's not low bid only, that we're able to bring in relevant experience, or the ability to integrate with things like remote management system or reservation program and have a proven track record on something like that. So yeah, typically airports prefer to go through us as a subcontract to our contract.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, gentlemen. Okay, moving on.
I comment there, but not trying to make your life difficult, but as we transition to this new phase, we need to be aware that we're going to have purchasing policies and strictly follow them across all procurements. And it's not always low bid, and specs can be written to accommodate cold weather, those type of things. So my argument here is not with the vendor or what's happening. It's that we need to start to institute the governance that we have those policies in place and we're following them.
John, we do actually came out with your meeting notes for this meeting. At the very bottom of the sheet, it had our purchasing policy, because Sean and I had a conversation about this, and you can read it on the email that you got for today. So be happy to talk about that with you offline if you'd like. Okay, item 6, receive communication from Clear Channel Airports to extend their concessionary agreement.
Okay, we have a communication dated February 18th from Thaddeus Glenn, Senior Airport Development Director. Thaddeus is with us today out in the great state of Pennsylvania. Their contract with us expires on April 14th of 2020, and they're requesting a 5-year extension to that concession agreement. Would commence April 15th, 2021, continuing through April 14th of 2026. So Thaddeus is online if you have any questions. That is what their request is.
Good morning, everybody. I have a short presentation. Is it okay if I do that?
Yes, please.
Sure.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'd like to start by just saying thank you for letting me join you today. I'm sorry I can't be doing this in person. I look forward to the period of time when we can again be meeting in person. I have been with Clear Channel Airports for the last 20 years. And before I was in business development, I was a project manager. And so 5 years ago, I was the project manager that installed the very advertising program that is currently in place in the airport. So the Hector International Airport is one that I knew well. So I've got a little slide I'd like to share with you, a deck. It's 9 pages long. It's heavy on pictures and light on words. So I can try to get through this in a short period of time so that you can get on about your business. Darren, would you please allow me to share my screen? Is everybody the screen with the 3 circles?
Yes.
Beautiful. All right. So, Sean, thank you for the introduction. My name is Thaddeus Glenn, and Clear Channel Airports and the Hector International Airport have been partners since 1996. And our current term does end at the end of this April, and Clear Channel Airports is seeking a 5-year extension. So I thought it would be useful to give you a brief history of our business as it relates to the Hector International Airport. Clear Channel Airports has been in business since 1974, and what we recognized is that airports are the gateway into the communities they serve. They are the first thing that travelers see when they arrive, and the last thing they see when they leave. When you go through old cities where they have train stations, you'll notice considerable money is spent on building beautiful train stations. because they got that used to be the gateway into the communities. And now today, that's what airports are. As such, we recognize that Clear Channel Airports came up with the concept of creating a community showcase program. So when you land in Fargo, you see the movers and shakers and the businesses that support the community. And as such, we work hard to create a custom community showcase program that enhances the architectural style of the building. We spend thousands and thousands of dollars to create theming so that when you land in Fargo, there's no mistake where you are. And that's why you don't see beach scenes or tropical trees. You see imagery and design features that align with the airport, all the way down to the bag belt advertising displays. You know, you've got the brown structural steel out the front of the building. We just incorporated that into the bag belt deck so that it looked like when the airport was installed, well, the advertising program was installed in it. So Clear Channel Airports, recognizing that this is the community showpiece, we go to great lengths to do more than just put signs on walls and sell them. Now, at the end of the day, Clear Channel Airports makes money by selling exposure to the local businesses. And the exposure are the airline passengers that come through your airport. So in 2016, we installed a state-of-the-art program, complete with a digital network that covers the entire airport, both pre-checkpoint and post-checkpoint. Custom theming in the baggage claims. You go down, you can see the matter of fact, the image here is the biplane over the sunflower fields. That was taken by the photographer who, there's a similar shot in the 1976 cover of National Geographic. This is from that same group of photos. We have the bison in the Badlands area. And then in 2016, we hired a pilot to fly over the city of Fargo and snap a photograph of the city. And I'm hoping you've gone and looked at it closely, but we wanted to make sure we had the airport show up in there so you can see the runways and the very terminal building in which you're sitting. And that's the kind of effort and attention to detail that we apply to our programs so that they enhance the facilities in which they reside. So we invested over $184,000 in 2016 to have the program in place that is. With an extension, we are prepared to replace all of the digital displays so that they are brand new and in running order for another 5 years. A part of our model is having a regular on-site presence. So while we are out of Eastern Pennsylvania, we have our marketing executives calling into the local community. We also make a point when it's not a global pandemic to travel to the airport and have sales blitzes where we would line up appointments and then over the course of a week walk prospective advertisers around the airport and show them how the valuable demographic that the airport provides, people that have money, whether it's their own or their businesses, are perfect to put their branding in front of. And finally, we have a local service representative who maintains the programs regularly and keeps everything running and in tip-top shape. So this is how Clear Channel Airports, this is our business model and how we've come to be in Fargo and why we have a custom program that is currently in place. So I don't know if you've heard, but an interesting thing happened in March of 2020. There was a global pandemic and that decimated the aviation industry and the advertising industry for that matter. So here we see how the impact hit Fargo specifically. In 2019, you were just shy of 1 million passengers, and then last year you just about cut that in half, and ended the year down 49% from where you were in the previous year. Fortunately for Fargo, you actually did better than the national average, which is closer to 60% down. So let's look at how Clear Channel performed in Fargo. I am pleased to report that Clear Channel Airports ended the 2020 year at $207,000 in top line sales. That is a 9% increase over 2019. I will tell you, this is highly unusual. It's nice to give a presentation to a board when we did better in 2020 than we did in 2019, because the reality is we did much worse in a majority of our airports. So when we look at how we did in Fargo, we would attribute it to three things. And that is how engaged our sales force is with the local businesses. We made a point right in the spring when traffic plummeted in April to reach out to every single advertiser and do a wellness check. And where appropriate and necessary, we were made concessions for those advertisers, whether it was in the form of credits, giving them extensions on their advertising terms, or adjusting the terms in some fashion. We did it with surgical precision. The hospitality industry is decimated. The health industry and the building industry, they weren't hit. Building industry, as a matter of fact, had a booming year in 2020. So we didn't take a blanket approach. We talked to each advertiser to say, what can we do to serve you in this time in as best as we're able. The second thing that enabled us to succeed was our long-term contracts. Clear Channel Airports works hard to sign long-term contracts to take out the peaks and the valleys that happen with things such as a global pandemic, 9/11, SARS, or the crash of 2008, where times get tough on advertisers, and if they've got short-term contracts and they're allowed out, they often will exit. But since we make a point of having long-term contracts, it helps save us from the bleak times. And finally, we did well in 2020 because Fargo is a community that supports their airport. And I'd be remiss if I did not express gratitude and appreciation to Sean, Darren, and the rest of the team there at the airport for doing their part to create such close ties with the community. The community gets that this is the gateway to their hometown, and they, as such, are willing to support the airport and what we have going. You'll see the dark black line is the traffic trend, and the light blue line is the sales. And we have largely followed the trajectory of sales. In 2010 and 11, we got some massive contracts with American Express. And so those were two bumper years, because while our focus is on bringing in local and regional businesses to support the community showcase program, we've also got a nationwide account executives who are able to bring in national sales as well, so that our airport partners can benefit from local and regional as well as national advertising dollars. So while Clear Channel Airports did great in Fargo, the reality of our business is we have been decimated. In 2019, we had a record year. In 45 years in business, we had never done better than $200 million, and we were able to generate $203 million in 2019. Our 2020 budget was $212 million. We ended up 2020 at $123 million. So almost a half of our business, or a half of our top line sales disappeared. And if you think about that in terms of your own businesses or in your personal financial situation, if you lost nearly half of what you have historically operated on, it is quite a blow. And that is our reality. So Clear Channel Airports had to do a strategic pivot to save our business. And that meant cutting everything we possibly could. That is non-essential expenses. We had to cut our payroll. We had to cut our travel. And while we held off as long as possible, we finally also had to cut personnel. And we put into place freezes, and that includes our capital expenditure freezes. We did that so that we can shore up our business and maintain the existing programs we have and ensure that they remain state of the art and in full operational condition. So that has led to a policy which does not enable Clear Channel Airports to respond to any RFPs, certainly in 2021, and depending on what happens, could extend into 2022. We're just not in a position, and while our term is up, if an RFP was released by the Hector International Airport, we would be devastated to not be able to participate. But our reality, because of the situation, is that we're just not in that place. We have limited capital, and the reality that we face, and not only is this true for Clear Channel Airports, this is true for every airport advertising concessionaire that we compete with. Nobody knows what the economic climate is going to entail. Things had started to look better at the end of the summer in 2020, and as we went into the fall, and then there were spikes in the COVID-19, and then things went back down again. And the reality is, while we would like to hope that things will get better and we'll climb through this now that there is the vaccines, we just don't know what's going on, and nobody really does. Nobody knows when traffic is going to come back. The experts are projecting that traffic return to normalcy in 2024, but it's just a guess. And nobody knows when the business traveler will come back. And the business traveler is the primary product that we sell to businesses. And so since these unknowns are in place with absolute certainty right now into the next several years, not only for Clear Channel Airports, for our competitors, if the airport authority puts out an RFP, it will not be in your best interest if securing the best possible and most competitive proposals is what you're all about, which is what we would assume, since every dollar is so precious. Since proposals will not be competitive because nobody knows how to accurately project what kind of revenue they'll be able to get, and therefore it makes the risk, it elevates the risk, and it makes the return on investment not as possible to project. And since that is the case, what proposals will be not as strong as when the economy returns, which it will return. We just don't know when. Further to that point, if you did put an RFP out and advertising concessions did propose, or if anyone proposed, would they propose and install a program that by the end of this October, if we get the extension, would be over $200,000? I don't know. I think it's probably not very likely at all, as Clear Channel Airports can't even propose $10, let alone over $200,000 once the investment's been made. And it should be known that the advertising program is Clear Channel Airports property. and those are our assets, and they would be removed at the end of our term. Furthermore, all of our advertising contracts are subordinate to the concession agreement, which means if an RFP was released and someone was selected, all the advertising contracts would be terminated as a part of the concession agreement. And any new concessionaire would not only have to put a brand new airport advertising program in place, they'd be starting from $0 in the midst of one of the greatest catastrophes of the aviation history. And so it's just would be ill-advised to issue an RFP from the airport's perspective for all these reasons. So this is my final slide. With all that said, Clear Channel Airports asks for a 5-year extension to allow for us to together manage through these uncertain times and arrive at a more stable time that we think that certainly in 5 years, things will normalize, traffic will be back to where it needs to be. And at that time, when you issue an RFP, you will be able to be sure to get the best possible proposals that will represent top dollar for the airport. And it will also enable us to continue investment throughout term and depreciate any investments that we need to make to ensure that the program remains first class and top working order. And it enables us to continue our long-term relationships with the advertising community that we already have spent the last nearly 24 years working. And we would like to continue to support providing a source of non-aeronautical revenue to the airport. That is my presentation, and I thank you for allowing me to give it to you, and would like to open up the floor to any questions you might have.
Any questions for Mr. Glenn? I have some comments. So we've been using Clear Channel for quite a while, and you know, the world's changed in the last 12 months. I've been approached by 2 different companies who have asked repeatedly if they could have a shot at our airport at having a contract with us. So if I am not in favor of granting a 5-year extension, if Clear Channel does not want to put forth an RFP, that's their business, and you know, and I would like to open up the discussion with you as to whether we should do an RFP or a limited extension, but I am not in favor of just granting another 5-year blank check because they don't want to put forth an RFP. That feels like almost like a challenge to me. It's like, if you don't want to play, that's fine, but I certainly do not want to limit our opportunities for growth because another company doesn't want to put forth an RFP.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
What type of equipment are they proposing upgrading to? And what is the estimated cost? And what would be the time frame to do that upgrade if we did proceed?
For who? For Clear Channel?
With Clear Channel.
Good question, Mr. Thaddeus.
I'm sorry, what? You're saying, oh, how would we enhance the existing program?
No, what type of equipment?
What type of
are you talking about upgrading?
are you talking about upgrading? What technology?
And what is the time frame to do that
if we would agree to extend?
Okay, if there was to extend, we would replace, there's 5 82-inch digital displays throughout the terminal, 3 in bag claim, 2 up in the gate holds, and they would all be replaced, and that would be done in October of this year.
What is the cost for those?
That would be a little over $23,000.
Okay.
And then,
that was his second.
Excuse me?
That was his second question, was how much the cost was. You didn't hear the first time he asked it, so.
Oh, okay, I apologize. And I just wanted to make a point that certainly this is not meant as a challenge, and it's not that Clear Channel Airport doesn't want to, it's that we're incapable of it. Having said that, if 5 years just seemed like too much, we would appreciate any extension to get us through these tough periods, because we would very much like to continue partnering with the airport. So some airports have granted a 3-year extension, and which we're working through, such as Sacramento's working on a 3-year extension. We've got some airports working on a 2-year extension. So certainly we wanted to put this out there so if to make this a conversation and not just hey, take it or leave it if it is not 5 years just seems too unreasonable from your perspective. Would 3 years certainly help us get to 2000?
Thank you.
Yes?
Thank you, Mr. Glenn. Tammy?
I don't have a question, I just have a comment. As a person who's written dozens and dozens of RFPs, I see his point of view. If you've cut your staff in half, and I remember going through the SP Plus's RFPs, and they were hundreds and hundreds of pages. So I can empathize with you about that, and I understand, and if the 5 years is too long, I think the discussion, we should talk about something other than that.
Any discussion on the floor?
I know John had to cut off, and he's a giant proponent of RFPs and bidding process, and I guess I would be in favor of RFPs simply because it's been a long time.
Yep.
And there are new companies, maybe there's local companies that like you say, want to bid on it.
There is. I just want to say when I was interviewed by the mayor, one of his big complaints was that we had this super long standing agreement with SP Plus that just kept getting extended and extended and extended, and he had specifically said, I'm tired of these long-term things where nobody's bidding. I see this as one of those situations, and so it's not that I have a bias to anybody, any one particular vendor whatsoever, but I just see this as a very long-term contract that has been going on, and I have been asked by 2 different people if when the contract is up because they would like to bid on it. So if
now,
yeah, go ahead.
Can I have we extended their contract previously?
Many times.
Many times. So okay. So there is a precedent set that we have extended it without going through the RFP process.
Yes.
I don't know, the hundreds of thousands that they've invested since '96 is astronomical.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I guess one of my concerns of making any changes is the fact that Thaddeus clearly stated that those contracts and agreements with the advertisers ends, and that has to be recreated. And in the current environment, once a contract ends, companies are more than likely going to review everything, including that contract.
Sure.
And so I'm concerned that we may lose some of those advertisers. We may not, but that would be a concern.
Sure.
Yes. The contract is up in April, correct? So is that really, are we getting in a time crunch here to put out an RFP and get the whole thing? I mean,
Impossible. Would not be done.
I couldn't hear him.
It would be, there's absolutely no chance that you would have an RFP put together and bid.
Yeah, that's,
by April.
my point was going to be maybe we should do some sort of an extension with now, and then look at a new RFP maybe when situation changes with air travel and advertising and business and the whole thing. And
I would agree with that.
I would too. I mean, the
6 to 12 months
requirements are that you have to go through for the RFP for us to go through.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I would move we extend this contract for a minimum period of 12 months.
Okay.
With the understanding that review and or possible RFP thereafter.
Okay. I have a motion on the floor to extend it for 12 months. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Let's put it up for a roll call vote, please.
Hogan?
Aye.
Conscript is off. Langen?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye. Okay, Mr. Glenn, you have a 12-month extension, and then I expect an RFP from you after that, okay?
Excellent. Thank you very much for
Okay.
your time. I appreciate it.
All right, item 7,
Thank you.
receive an update on U.S. Customs and Border Protection technology upgrade project.
So a few meetings ago, we brought forth some information from Customs regarding a technology upgrade in their office area. The costs at that time were $50,000+. It was a very expensive type deal, but one of the things that they required in their memorandum of agreement was a reimbursement to Customs and Border Protection that included a clawback to 2013 due to their interpretation of the contract versus ours and some other airports around the country. Many phone calls with the Customs folks in Pembina and Seattle since that time, and I think it was just last week, sometime prior to that, Stacy had a conversation with the folks in Seattle to negotiate out that clause, the clawback clause, if you will, back to 2013, and they did finally put forth MOU to reimburse, which I signed and executed last week, that does remove that clawback. So this is our responsibility. The cost, as you can see, has come down to something less than, get to my page here. It's around, at the most, $26,802 for the equipment. That's down about 30-some thousand from before. And then the estimated annual reincurred cost of $5,729, which I think will be somewhat less. That's basically the cost of the monthly fiber from Consolidated Communications. I'm still trying to get Customs to bill us that directly, but I believe it's going to have to go through a reimbursement process to Customs each month or quarter or year, however they want to set that up. So this is just an update that, and Jason Schmalz did sign it. From the date that they put in their order, it's 120 days before the equipment they believe will arrive, and then they'll get this upgraded and coordinate with us. This is our responsibility for having Customs here. If we don't do this, Customs office closes, period.
Okay.
Can we use CARES money for this?
We believe that we can, since it's a government mandate. I can't say where they're buying their equipment from.
Okay.
I have no idea. I found it on the internet substantially less than what they previously done, brought that to their attention, and evidently they must have followed through on that. So that's the update.
All right, so that's just an update we don't have to make. Can I circle back and say, with the Clear Channel extension, can we put that out for an RFP in the November or December timeframe so that we don't get in a time crunch? Can we table this and say, hey, and start
We
putting
can do it
forward?
earlier, but I don't think 1 year is going to be enough. I think the COVID is going to be upon us for any credible companies to put RFPs in. 1 year is not going to be enough. I'm almost certain of that now, but we can put it out there.
Okay.
We can always reject them and continue on with what we currently have. I mean,
it's always an option.
We can do that, but we'll put something together.
I just want to put it on the calendar so that we don't, corn cob doesn't fall off the plate while we're grabbing something else, right? All right. Item 8, APEC update.
We had another meeting, which I thought would be the last meeting, but it's not, so we're meeting again Friday. That's it.
That's our update, okay. Thank you. Item 9, receive update regarding the property sale to the Matherins. Susie.
I really don't have anything further per se to update. The entire abstract for the property, not including what's been divided out, has been done that needed to be done. Now I'm gonna sit down with the Cass County, and work through that particular 2 pieces of property to make sure that the airport owns them free and clear, which they do, but we need to be able to make that representation. And like I said before, I've got the quitclaim deed prepared, which is how the airport received the property from Jack Stockman, and I have the purchase agreement, so we're getting there.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. What do you think your timeline is on this?
I hope we have it ready for next meeting.
All right. All right, airport construction security update, number 10. Terry Stroh?
Yeah, hi, good morning.
Still here, good for you. Thank you, sir. What do you have for us today?
So things are going along on the project. In the addition, they are doing a lot of their cuts through into the existing structure, so cutting out concrete and walls and rerouting electrical and those kind of things, installing the overhead doors. Evidently the frost is out now, and they'll be pouring the floor inside the addition in short order here. They're rerouting some, again, exhaust things and stuff that have to do with the existing facility. So they're moving along. The SRE is starting to get closer to completion. All the walls are done. They're doing metal studs in the, which we don't have many, in the break room. The mezzanine floor is being prepared and it's going to be poured on Wednesday. Block filler is actually basically a paint that fills in kind of the pores of the block, which we have some in the break room. They're doing that right now. They're almost complete with the painting of the ceiling, waiting to, I think, work off of the mezzanine floor when that's poured, so they're kind of up to that little area. They're installing the spiral ductwork in the garage, and they've completed all the ductwork for the bathrooms and break room. They're doing final connections on plumbing, and they're running compressed air and water out into the garage where we have a couple of locations so they can do work on vehicles and stuff, and piping controls and electrical to the overhead doors.
Okay.
So they're moving along.
Okay. Outstanding. And you're still on, what's your timeline for completion, sir?
I wanted to say it was like end of February. I'm guessing it's going to be into March a little bit. So I guess I think that was maybe the new building is what we were trying to shoot for, because that was the most important. And, I guess we kind of lucked out with not a lot of snow. So.
Great. And do we have to get a certificate of occupancy and all that stuff as well? Yes?
Yeah, we will. Yep, exactly. Yep, we will, before they'll let us park things in it and stuff like that. So I'm hoping to have some information on that for your next meeting. So.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Any questions for Mr. Stroh? Very good. All right, that is the last item on the stuff, and then I had some stuff to talk about strategic planning, and then we're still going to go in executive session. Okay. Do you want to do the executive session first? I don't want to keep everybody here that doesn't need to be here, so that doesn't want to be here.
Steve needs to get signatures from you and Rick while they're here. That's going to take a little bit.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, I will. How would you like to do this, John?
It's entirely up to you.
Okay. I'll just do mine real fast here. So, all of my military leadership kind of training that I've done says when you walk in and you're put in an authority position, you set your expectations for everybody, you set your vision for how you'd like things to go, and you set the way that we're going to do those things. And so that's kind of the purpose that I just want to take 5 minutes of your time here. So just as far as setting expectations, all of you are very successful people, and you all have outstanding traits, and I look up to each of you for each of your own things that you bring to the table, and I love that. And all that I really want to say is kind of the basic expectations. I want you to come prepared for the meetings, okay? A lot of times in my personal life, in my business dealings, things get crazy, and I come skidding in here at 100 miles an hour on 2 tires, and I probably didn't do as much due diligence as I want. So it's okay to have questions and so forth, but do your best job that you can to come prepared for the meetings. That being said, we all have different ways of seeing things and the different ways to view things. So getting in sync with each other and getting on board is one of the key things that's going to lead to success for us. So I expect all of us, as far as that goes, I expect all of us to play for Team Airport, okay? I want to leave all other lingering outside loyalties, other teams that you have played for in the past. Those are great. That has made you who you are today. But today we are on Team Airport. That's the jersey we wear, and that's the team that I want you to think of when we're making our decisions. That is meant to alleviate any biases and ways that you kind of think, or loyalties that don't belong at this table. So another thing, be open-minded. Of course, I want a way that we can bring our viewpoints together, put your thoughts on the table, and be open-minded to hearing other people's thoughts. When we come in with a closed mind, we have a way that we have already decided before we walk in. We start thinking with ego, and we start thinking with emotion, and that clouds our vision sometimes, and it clouds your judgment, and you make worse decisions based on it. So I want you to come in with an open mind and get the new information that somebody else may bring to the conversation, and then it might change your mind in the way you think. So be open-minded as much as you can. Also be pragmatic. I would like everyone to try and be as pragmatic as you can. Find an answer, find a solution. So anybody can look at something and say, well, that won't work. Well, that's finding fault in something isn't a skill set that I value. What I value is finding the fault in it and then finding a solution that will make it work. I specifically need you to come to us and say, not this won't work, but it won't work that way, but it can work this way. So always try and come to us with, when you see a problem, bring the solution along with it. And last thing is be decisive. I see that we have, at times we get afraid of making a mistake, and then we just kind of table the conversation for a much later date. Together we will all gather as much info as we can and make the best decision that we can with the information that we have on hand. And then from that we'll take an action, we'll put up for a vote, and then either it passes or it doesn't. But please don't be afraid to make mistakes. Please bring your comments on the table so that everybody can interact with each other, have a thoughtful conversation, thoughtful disagreement, but we have to have a conflict resolution at the end.
Could you put these board norms together in a written document? That's usually what I would do. And so we all, especially,
Yep.
it's good for the minutes, but board norms, I think it's good for all of us to do.
Principles to follow, right?
Yeah, and I call them board norms.
I had them all written down,
Did you?
and then I read it out loud last night, and
Yeah.
it sounded very harsh and very
I don't-
authoritative, and that's not my intent at all. And so
No, but I think it's really important because, and there's a couple people that aren't on right now, and I think just the thoughtfulness and that these are the expectations, but that these are what we are expected, and maybe expectations isn't the word, and that's the only reason I use norms, so that's.
Yes, sure.
And so,
yeah,
I think those are great.
This is meant to include everybody and to bring everybody together. This is not meant to alienate anybody or tick you off and be like, well, screw that guy. You know, that's not my intent whatsoever. Decision-making process and conflict resolution. So that's the last thing I have here is I want you to get your ideas out on the table, like I said. Let's have a thoughtful discussion and a thoughtful disagreement with each other, and then we'll come to a usable conclusion from that. Let's put it on the table, put it for a vote. Who was watching the PEC meetings the last time? We had two options for the way that the pay scales were going to go. It was either going to go option A or option B. We spent an hour and 15 minutes debating back and forth, and it was like, let's put it up for a vote.
Yeah.
Let's put option A up, and either it will pass or it doesn't. And
Exactly.
if it doesn't pass, let's put it B up for option, and let's vote on that. And we could have been done in 5 minutes, and it was this giant time wriggler because we didn't have a decisive way to conclude the conflict, right? So let's put it up for a vote. Once the motion has been passed, debate's over, okay? We're back on one team, one mentality kind of thing like that. Let's take our conclusion and our course that we've gone, and then we'll continue to evaluate our decision and make any course corrections or as necessary. That's all I have for right now, okay? So please find a way to come together, be open-minded, work with each other. We'll come up with great ideas. Okay. Anything from the floor?
So as Steve collects his signatures here, there's two other things. So we have a draft ground lease with Dakota Allied Properties for the Bemidji Aviation Maintenance Hangar up in the cargo area. That was provided to their representative, Paul Johnson, for review. Have not heard back from them. maybe at the next board meeting we'll do that. February 13th, the FAA notified us of 2 additional CARES type related grants. They're actually called the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriation Act. We are in line for 2 grants there. One is for $102,970, which is to offset minimum annual guarantee losses. As you know, at the last meeting we approved a waiver of a minimum annual guarantee for budget. And then also we believe we can go back to April, May, and June of 2020 when we waive the minimum annual guarantee for SP Plus. So that amount would be eaten up really quickly just by SP Plus in and of itself. The additional grant, which I think would be fair to say is in addition to the $21.6 million that we received, we have an additional $3,575,842 to be used for, I'll just read it exactly how it is on the grant. It's to be used for costs related to operations, personnel, cleaning, sanitization, janitorial services, combating the spread of pathogens at the airport, and debt service payments, of which we do not have any. So we'll get the paperwork signed for both of those grants and put them in the hopper. And
But that was for the escalator modification, yeah? Does that count because it's the pathogen?
it could. We're
Elimination.
just not sure that the equipment they're going to put in is going to meet the Buy America clause, but there could be a waiver granted for that because Otis is Otis. They're all over the country and they aren't American-made stuff. It's all German or European-made. So that's all I've got. Steve, I know it's a bunch of signatures here.
Okay.
If you want to just pause the meeting.
Yeah,
before
we'll
we
pause
do
the meeting here.
executive
We'll get our signatures done. We'll go into a short executive session to discuss our stuff, and then we'll be completed.
So we need a motion to move into executive session.
Okay. So you want to?
I move to go into executive session.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
We got a motion and a second from Mr. Howland.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Say aye.
Aye.
So housekeeping item, we have adjourned the executive session, but I forgot to read the announcement going into it, so I'm going to do that to just get it on the recording. The Municipal Airport Authority of the City of Fargo, North Dakota has entered into an executive session to receive an update regarding an ongoing discussion between the designated representatives of the authority and the city as those relate to the relationship between the 2 political subdivisions, including an amendment to the Memorandum of Understanding signed by both parties in January of 2020. These discussions have financial implications, and an open meeting of these discussion strategies and direction by the chairman and the authority's attorney would create an adverse financial effect on the bargaining position of the authority. The executive session has been authorized pursuant to the North Dakota Century Code 440419(9). And so that was going into it, and then now we'll come out of it. The executive session was adjourned, and the Municipal Airport Authority met in executive session to discuss the continued negotiations between designated representatives of the MMA and the city regarding a proposed amendment to the memorandum of understanding. That is all I have for the housekeeping stuff. Okay, anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
What's that?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion to adjourn the executive session.
Of the regular meeting.
I think
Yep,
you wanted
okay.
to go over. Do you want to go over any of this?
No, let's table it for next time.
Okay.
Okay, it's 10:15, everybody's
Okay.
got to go. So
Second.
I have a motion to adjourn the regular meeting. Can I get a second?
Mhm.
I have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.